Hello, hockey fans of all ages, shapes, and sizes. I want to talk about off-season acquisitions and UFAs, RFAs, as well as an interesting one, especially relating to Timo Meyer's contract, because he's going to probably be a good barometer for what Willie Nylander, or a guy like Carter Verhaeghe, who is like so freaking undervalued, and he's going to get a huge payday. He'll be up around 10 million. And one of the things about about all teams is you have to have really critically good financial, I guess, contracts in place and for terms and things. And you have to be very, patient in your horizon, where you see your organization kind of coming to an apex, and you're ready to win. So I think that's one of the most important things with all these huge UFA contracts available. You have to be, like in the case of the Rangers and the Leafs, they're both in a similar situation where they just have too many superstars on their team. It's like ridiculous, right? It's like the New York Yankees, or Boston Red Sox, or whatever. Just those huge markets, and we're in a salary cap era. So as far as I know, I think the cap is going up, maybe up to 2 million. Maybe they'll do a bigger bump if they pay off this player's loan. Just I got some notes in the back here. I usually just riff talking hockey just when I'm walking and stuff. It's good therapy. So I'm usually riffing, but there's so many names and things that I wanted to touch on in this. I thought I'd make myself some notes here on the old MacBook. Yeah, so I look at, I won't talk anymore about Ryan O'Reilly, but I wanted to touch on a guy who is a very interesting case, is Jonathan Toews. And I believe he's done, at least from Chicago and stuff. Like that was a circus this year, kind of like the tank for Bedard or whatever. There's a lot of ticked off fans that aren't. Some of my cousins, shout out Wes, especially humongous Chicago fans. So I sent him a message right away when I saw that, like, you bugger. Anyways, Jonathan Toews strikes me like Captain Sirius or whatever. He's a guy that, if he doesn't want to retire, I'm pretty sure he's a UFA. And I said I wouldn't talk about Ryan O'Reilly, but the context is they need a Ryan O'Reilly type grinder leader guy in their room. So if they can't get Ryan O'Reilly, to me, Jonathan Toews is a really interesting look. And if someone can get a hold of his agent from the Leafs, say, hey, what do you think? We'll bring you back for, 3 mil times 3 or something to end your career in Toronto. I don't know if he'd be open to it. But something like that could be a really, really interesting bridge. Some of the brain farts with Tavares. Like, I love the guy. He's got an amazing soul. But there's a lot of questions around, how many times can you run it back, etc., right? You need some other leaders' voices in that room, like the Stahl brothers that I talked about before. So another interesting guy is Matt Dumba. Like, if the Leafs are looking at potentially acquiring a defenseman that would pair with Morgan Riley, he's a really interesting case, kind of like that Ekblad, Mark Stahl, Montour. Like, he'd be definitely in the top 4. He might actually want a little bit too much. I looked at his stats. He was like 4 goals and 10 assists, not like earth shattering by any means. So his salary is 6 mil. I'm not sure if he would want to take a discount. And I think the Leafs, in their huge cap, and the Rangers too, like, I don't think they can bring back a guy like Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane also said, I want to play in Buffalo, and I'm not exactly sure where he's from. I heard it was near Buffalo. So Buffalo is like an emerging team, and a guy like Patrick Kane is a really interesting one for me, for like Buffalo as a potential landing spot, because I don't think the Rangers can afford him, and he's got that Jonathan Toews type leadership. Shout out to my buddy Dan, who got a box for Kane coming back during midseason. I think it was a couple years ago. And he did like a jersey retirement with the London Knights. That guy's a legend in London here, as is Corey Perry too. So that's another UFA. I've already heard rumblings that he's potentially considering Toronto. Like, to me, if you're going to keep this core four and you're like thinking potentially Matthews is going to walk, you got to surround him with like every possible grinder type guy and literally just throw the kitchen sink at next season, because potentially Matthews could walk after that if he's not happy, and there's nothing you can do after July 1st. So another guy I find really interesting is potentially Jonathan Quick. Now, I already mentioned that I'd like him to start Game 6 for VGK. Already got 2 cups. If he's unhappy with that situation, like, to me, logically, he's the guy that should be starting. Like, it just makes too much sense. So I don't know what's going on there with VGK in the locker room. There's always other issues. Like, these people are human beings, and people are up and down with their happiness or sadness or whatever. I'm not saying he's any of that, but like, there's a reason that he's not playing, and why Soupy, like Jack Campbell, wasn't playing. Like, coaches have their guys, right? So if Quick isn't a guy that can get along with Cassidy, I'm not saying either guy's at fault. It's just like, if they're not like each other's guy, then it is what it is, right? Maybe Toronto looks at trying to scoop him up for a couple seasons, and this would be one caveat is, I've been throwing out some stuff on message boards just to kind of irk fans, or like get a conversation. Some people go crazy over trade speculation, and I think it's kind of funny. But to me, it's like, if you could get a guy like for Matthews, let's say you talk to him, he doesn't see his future in Toronto. As much as it's a gut punch to every single fan who like saw him score 4 goals in his debut, it's like, whatever, you're never going to replace a guy like that. So I hope they can sign him somehow. But you do have like all these other, guys that are going to need humongous money, like the Rangers issue, right? Like, you just can't have that much cap. So you have to make these tough decisions. Now, I look at a guy like Connor Hellebuck, who, watching his presser of leaving, he's just like, I don't even know if I'm going to be here. I'm just like, what? So I think he even has a year left on his deal. Mark Scheifele has a year left on his deal. Kyle Connor seems to be the future in Winnipeg, so I don't think you could pry him from their board and their management's hands. So potentially they'd be looking like Scheifele's 30. Kyle Connor, I think, is a bit younger. 27 maybe. I don't know. Anyways, like, if you pair Hellebuck with one of these guys, like an Adam Lowry, like a leadership grinder guy, or like a Kyle Connor, and potentially Scheifele, with Hellebuck, it'd be as like somewhat like a giant swing, like a grand slam trade like we saw last year with Tkachuk and Huberdeau and Uyghur. And shout out to Calgary Flames. I'm going to be I'm coming your way. I think I'm going to end up settling in Calgary, or Kelowna or something. Like, I'll apply to the Flames and the Rockets. I don't care. I'll sell 50-50 tickets, or some merch, sell some seasons tickets, or whatever. I just corrected my lighting there. Yeah, so I guess like the Calgary Flames, the verdict is out if that trade. I think when I saw it, much like a lot of other commentary on this subject, I thought Calgary did a good job with that. So you see Brad Treliving potentially coming to Toronto. He's a guy that could make the changes. I love to see Dougie do the Dougie, San Jose fame there, Hall of Fame. That's a very interesting one, because my guy Jumbo, I remember Dougie Wilson saying, Jumbo, you've always got a spot in management if you ever want it. So kind of interesting there, like little Dougie Thornton, maybe Shanahan, Dougie as co-presidents, co-president GM. I don't know. I think for Shanahan, it's really interesting because he's probably got his lifelines with the board. They're probably like a little bit miffed of what's going on. I think, there's 2 ways you can look at it. He could be protective and say, I'm not going to hire anybody for a couple years. I'm going to take it all myself because I'm gone anyways. If things don't work out, they're probably going to move in a different direction. It's just the way like these high-end jobs are just not around. Like Kipper and Bourne were saying, like, you know, you just and Stellick too, I think it was just yeah, like these jobs are not laying around, you know, like on the front lawn. It's just like there's 32 teams, right? So it's like you get this job and it's extremely stressful. There's high turnover. You obviously you want some stability if you're the board and stuff, so there's a fine line there, but these are performance-based jobs. If you don't win, if you don't go in a good direction, you're gone, right? There's like a million guys lining up to have that position. So I love the Dougie one. Shout out for that as potential. He's if you want experience, your Shanahan. Dougie was such a good GM for San Jose for all those years. So the one I think a little bit late, and this could have been around health issues and family stuff. I'm not sure. I will try to be as objective as possible when I evaluate this. I believe Timo Meier was a contract on there, so that's one I wrote down to talk about as well too. So I was reading up on RFAs, and you have to offer 100% of the previous year's salary. So that's why that qualifying offer for Timo Meier is 10 million, and that's going to set the bar for guys like William Nylander and Carter Verhaeghe. So whatever Timo gets, he's going to get 10 million. Like they didn't trade all those assets to San Jose for nothing, like Shakir Mukhamadullin and all these guys. So yeah, it's like and just on that too, I wanted to comment and then I'll sign off here. So Timo's contract, it was like 3.3 mil heavy on the signing bonus, low on the salary. Then it was 6 mil, 4 plus 2. Then it was 10 million salary for the last year. So of course, I think Mike Grier made a good move. As much as I love Timo, saw him in Florida too at the hotel before the Panthers game on my 40th birthday. And I was just like, Timo time, let's go. And he ended up scoring a goal that game. So I'm a huge believer in psychology and positive affirmations and stuff leading to success. And I'm not saying I made him score a goal, but he would probably never give me credit for that. But I love that stuff in the thought process. So yeah, I'm not sure what they were thinking. And I think it's a brilliant move by their agent to go light on the 24 mil, the 6 mil, and then go heavy on the salary. It guarantees him to be up in that upper echelon. And maybe that was like a motivating factor for him to score 40 goals, right? And I think a Timo's a guy that could probably break 50 in my mind. Like the guy, he's a shooter and that guy knows how to shoot. So like I said, Verhaeghe's super undervalued. He's going to get a massive pay bump, and Willie's probably going to sign around that 10 mil as well, as Kipper said. So the last thing I wanted to say is, even with all those trade speculations and stuff, San Jose, if they draft Michkov, I don't know. I think Columbus might take him, and then they got to draft Will Smith in my mind. But could you imagine like a Tarasenko-like guy signing for 5.5 mil for like 7 years in San Jose? I want to say San Jose was in on the sweepstakes of him a few years ago when he said he wanted to trade. I think he's another one of those guys that New York just can't afford to keep. It's like every other GM in the league's, fruit off the tree, as they speak, bearing fruits of that trade that St. Louis is kind of in a retooling, rebuilding mode now. So I think if any GM looks at it, I would love to see him in San Jose. Barabanov, Michkov, and Tarasenko, the Russian connection. Holy crap, would that be insane for the Sharks? Obviously, as I've said many times, Sharks my favorite team. So I'll leave it at that. Maybe Kane to Buffalo. Who knows? Maybe Goody comes back to San Jose. Let's go. I'll leave it there. Enjoy the game. Dallas at VGK. Cheers.